Hey everyone, very good morning. Charles here, Frgnt, daily chart analysis. The time is just approaching 7 local time here in Spain today. I'm on vacation, as I've mentioned before, so on vacation I'm still active on the charts. Must admit, not as active as I would be in the silence of my own home, but nevertheless, trading is one of those professions that you can take with you. So that's what I've been doing. What's the date today? It's Wednesday the 24th of June 2026. And a bit of a video to just go over what I had prior on my charts, what's materialized, the positions that I've taken, and then post that I will reanalyze the markets for the day ahead, and of course post my Frgnt daily chart analysis for the day. So first and foremost, what we had at the turn of this week, we were talking about DXY strength long term. As a result of having a look or viewing, being able to see that the DXY had of late, in particular last week's weekly candle closed above that region. Therefore, I did have an anticipation of the DXY actually rolling back slightly more than it had. As you can see on the lower time frames, even on the 4-hour, DXY hasn't really provided any real pullback for us to get involved in that higher high, higher low, higher high type of situation, which then in turn has not really given us much or me personally, by the way I like to trade, by waiting for price to pull back after breaking structures. Hasn't really given much of an opportunity for me personally thus far this week. So that's what I'm going to go through. As you can see, my charts are pretty much unchanged. My alerts haven't triggered. In particular on the DXY, I was waiting as a result of that push towards the upside, waiting for the DXY to roll back into that 15-minute order block, which would have been an aggressive order block nevertheless. But as we can see, as a result of that DXY strength, having any form of pullback would have been great, even into this slight 15-minute area based on a 15-minute time frame only. So as a result of viewing that at that point in the market, let's go through the charts to see what I was able to take and what we have seen materialize. So that's the DXY. Long story short, EU, based on the fact that I had the anticipation of, as I mentioned, after the DXY high, waiting for the DXY to create that higher low, which I would have hoped then with the pullback on the DXY would have had a better pullback on EU. As you can see, no position whatsoever I was able to take on EU. It's unfortunate. The analysis has indeed gone in our direction, but that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Of course, if I just pressed sell on MT4 on a couple of accounts, MT5 on a couple of accounts, I would have been a very happy trader. But as you can see, price did not pull back to any of my areas. Therefore, a short position simply wasn't available. We'll go through the other pairs to see what I was able to grab. So GU, very aggressive position, I must admit. So what we have on GU is using the 15-minute time frame only. Now GU, I was more inclined to look for long positions, which for sure I am looking for a long position this morning. As a result, in fact, of my short position being an aggressive short position that actually broke structure points to the highs. Now, what I had managed to see on GU is using the 15-minute time frame only. By the time price got to my area of looking for the short, we had indeed broken structure points towards the upside. However, looking at the DXY at the time, my inclination was that the DXY was continuing to move towards the upside. So with DXY strength, of course, GBP US dollar is going to be pushed to the downside. So what we saw here was a session high in the market, which I had marked off. Now, my session high is just an illustration. The market doesn't necessarily have to respect that session high. But what I liked in particular about that session high is the fact that after we broke out of that area with a 15-minute time frame, so if it was a 15-minute order block, of course I would just have to take that off the chart. But it's a session high. There wasn't a 15-minute order block available, as you can see by my sessions going across the top. price was failing to break above a certain area in the market. I could make it smaller, I can make it larger, but just by the optics, you can see there's an area in the market where price is failing to break above, so that's clear to see. And the importance of that area is that from that area we had made our most recent low in the market. Now, if I was to take into consideration higher time frame, I would not be able to take that short position. Now, that's because we are actively in a higher time frame daily order block where I have the thought process that price could look to move towards the upside. So that's fair to say. So it is a 15-minute time frame position only. Now, after that high was created, let's say hypothetically, I was expecting a higher low, meaning that my position would have to be incredibly aggressive to understand that that higher low could take place at any point. Therefore, I would need to move my position to break even pretty swiftly, because I understand higher high has now been created, breaking these structure areas towards the left hand side. After a higher high, I am indeed expecting a higher low, potentially for that higher high continuation. Now, the problem, well, not the problem, the supporting fact here is that where would I be considering taking a long position from? And that's down at these areas where I'd be looking to use my higher time from directional bias to support that long. Therefore, I'd had to be in that position and, as I've said, manage it pretty swiftly and be out of that position pretty swiftly as well. So that's what I've taken there this week thus far, a GU short position. Now, the reason why for that, based on the 15-minute time frame, well, of course, we've broken above, but still, I'm awaiting some structure points to be broken, pull back to a point of interest, and looking for a short position. Now, what I can see here, again, an area in the market where price is failing to break below. We had that break of structure, although it's a subtle one, it's good enough for me based on the 15-minute time frame only. And as I've said, we've had that break of structure to the downside initially, so I'm expecting price to want to gravitate back towards that area, but if not else, at least down towards this 15-minute order block right there at the lows, or if I'm wrong based on my illustration, this larger 15-minute order block. And as you can see, my alert is still there, crossing down, we haven't triggered. So what I waited for was that break of structure point. You can see just here that 15-minute order block that's available. And then we had a very, very large stop loss. I must admit, 28 pips. That is pushing it to the absolute limits for me on GU. Completely unnecessary. But the point of the matter is, I could see where I could lose that position quite easily. Now, I'd give myself a fighting chance if price would want to then pull back into that area before looking to go short, and that's the reason behind that. So not too much to scream about, I must admit, but on vacation, I'm happy to take little out of the market so long as it makes sense. So that's GU at the moment. So GU hasn't been closed out. GU is a break even. So I'll roll it back like so. And I'm just waiting for price to dip down into this 15-minute order block where I will have to close that position, because based on my higher time frame, looking at the 4 hour, we've finally broken above that area in the market, created that higher high, waiting for that higher low now being created, in my opinion, on the 4 hour time frame. And then we're waiting for that higher high continuation. So hopefully now, with DXY making those continued highs, if we can now seek to identify a rollback on that DXY, that would then provide us with that liquidity to then push GU up towards the upside, giving the incentive that the DXY is weak. We all know that the DXY long term is certainly not weak, but we'll be looking to trade that higher low leg extension on the DXY to take some advantage of GU strength coming out of the market. So that's what I've got. Hasn't been marked up just yet, but my higher time frame remains unchanged. Just going through what I've had thus far in the week. So that's GU, looking good for the week ahead. GJ, a position that I did really want to take. However, as you can see, no position was created. As a result of this time slightly different aspect on GJ, I identified GJ as a range. Now, the reason why I didn't like to take the short there on GJ is this 4 hour candle actually closed above that 4 hour range and the 4-hour order block, meaning that I had to get rid of it. I lost a tremendous amount of confluence from that GJ position, and as a result of that high, and also taking the GU shorts, then I thought, well, actually, it doesn't make sense to take two positions that are quite similar. So what I did, I just let GJ move without me, and understood that, yeah, of course, just like GU, we had the high in the market, having the anticipation that a higher low would be created, but I didn't have any supporting evidence at all. Nothing on the 15-minute time frame, and certainly nothing on the 4-hour as a result of breaking and closing above that 4-hour order block. Therefore, I'm not trading with any higher time frame confirmation. Now, I see this order block here for me to mark up potentially, but again, I see the better order block just here looking for the reaction. Now, after that high created on the 4-hour time frame, I'm expecting what's already illustrated, this higher low for that higher high continuation. So let's have a look to see what we have throughout the day. But no position there taken on GJ. But as you can see, or as you would be able to look back through my videos, I had said how the range can be manipulated. So I could have taken that position, a little bit caught off guard, but me waiting for the pullback, I wouldn't have triggered just looking at that now. So after this bearish engulfing candle down, which more so you will definitely find when the manipulation of a range takes place. I don't like calling it a manipulation of the range. It's just the dynamics of a range. Too many people are focused on taking immediate short positions from here. So of course price has the reaction. Then it's very easy to manipulate a range if you're a large institution. Allow those short positions to be activated, take them short positions out. We've all seen it. We've all been part of that process when we've started trading 10 years ago. I'll be the same, taking a short position from here, getting a little bit excited as price starts to roll in my direction, wiped out, then price goes towards my take profit. So that's the basics of a range. Therefore, no immediate positions whatsoever, waiting for price to actually do exactly what we've had, break out, break back in, leave with an order block to short from, waiting for that, but that order block never triggered. So unfortunately, no position there on GJ, so I'll have to remark that chart up in a couple of moments. UJ, no position on UJ as well. So as a result of anticipating dollar strength out of the market, I felt that UJ was one of those pairs that, although it looks good technical for short, I need to really wait for DXY to really show its hand. Also, I need the pair that I'm trading to show its hand. And at the moment, despite being in that higher time frame, weekly order block, refined daily order block, even the 4-hour, we've not had any 4-hour candle close above that 4-hour time frame. We're not doing anything, are we, guys? We're not trending at all anymore on UJ. And if you use your eyes only, you can see that we are starting the potential of a range. And you guys know already before I mark this chart up that when I am looking at a range, I need to identify an area in the market where price is failing to break below. In this instance, it will be below because I'm going to be sell biased based on the fact of that weekly order block, expecting price to move short out of that area. So already I have a little bit of a conflict there based on the DXY. If I'm anticipating DXY strength coming out of the market long term, then I don't really have a case to take a UJ short. However, as we've already disclosed, what goes up must always come down. We've created that high on the DXY. So, of course, we would be looking to then trend in a normal fashion after a high, expecting a higher low. So that would make quite good sense on UJ for UJ to actually move towards the downside. But again, do I believe that's going to be a long-lived position? Absolutely not. As we start to range in that area, that 4-hour 50 MA is coming up and actually working against us for our short position. Therefore, our targets, as the 4-hour 50 MA starts to come up, our targets start to reduce more and more. Therefore, it's going to be one of those positions that although you can see it, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a position that needs to be taken. So what I'd like to see in an ideal world is some structure points broken, of course, and the most idyllic would be a 4-hour bearish candle closing below that 4-hour 50 MA and also closing below an area in the market that price is failing to break below. Could even do one better, an area like so. What that would mean is we've got our first sign that price is potentially ready to turn around, what that would be is that 4-hour candle closure below that area. That 4-hour candle closure below that area would be a beautiful looking 15-minute trend like so. Of course, breaking 15-minute structure points on the way up, and then it's the patient play of waiting for price to pull back to that area for that short position. Of course, you're able to take that slightly more aggressively as a result of price not actually breaking. Well, this 15-minute order block's broken, so I'll certainly remove that. And then what I'll do is see a 15-minute order block right there up at the highs as well. So I'll add that in, ready for later this morning when I redo my charts. But what you can see quite clearly is that 15-minute order block there, and we can still see that structure points are failing to break towards the downside. So what I will do is bring this structure point slightly lower, and my illustration that was on there from Monday remains the same. I need to see a structure point broken to the downside, wait for price to roll back up towards the order block that has caused it, and then I'll take that short position if I see it's necessary. So that's UJ. Still quite good looking. It makes sense why we could take an immediate, well, not an immediate, well, we could take a half decent looking short position. But again, it's going to be a short-lived position, in my opinion, based on that DXY long-term strength coming out the market, and we will just be trading that higher lower extension before expecting that higher high to come out of the market. So that's UJ. AU, I did manage to take a position on AU. It wasn't the position that I wanted to take, I must admit. AU, I'm very much so short focused, but it's just not playing ball, unfortunately. I see the short position, I see the low. Look at the daily time frame, bottom right hand chart. I saw the low, waiting for price to pull back up for the lower high, for the lower low continuation. It's just not meant to be, unfortunately, for AU. So, unfortunately, well, I should say fortunately, I took a long position on AU based on a 15-minute time frame only. I had the Asia range that was available, if I'm not mistaken. We had a break of structure on a 15-minute time frame, 15-minute order block left behind as a result of that break. So I'm on my MacBook, so there's not too much room to play with. But yeah, an aggressive break of structure here, the 15-minute. We had price come back down to that 15-minute order block, left us with good confirmation, and then we took a break-even position. I was hoping for price to roll back up to that 15-minute order block potentially before looking to capitalize on a half-decent short position if it made sense. But unfortunately, just moved to break even because I understood it wasn't a position that I needed to take. It wasn't a position that I actually loved to take either. Therefore, I even recognize it was an aggressive position as a result of not breaking that most recent key structure point in the market. You see by my illustration, a much preferred position I would have liked to have taken. So when it's not your textbook type of position, more often than not, it is going to look to have signs of an aggressive type of scenario, therefore an aggressive trade management. It's as simple as that. So that's AU. Nothing for AU. Now, as we roll down to those higher time frames, it's a bit of a shame, but I might well be looking for long positions now on AU coming out of that higher time frame daily order block, much like GU that we've discussed as well, and EU. So we'll have a look at those. Well, we've already discussed those, but we'll have a look to see how that rolls on throughout the day when I reanalyze the charts. GCAD, I think GCAD, I took a position on GCAD. No, clearly not. Nothing on GCAD. Where are we on GCAD? GCAD, I was pretty sure I was looking at short positions, but evidently there was no break of structure, so no position on GCAD. And that's how the cookie crumbles. Very easy for me to remember. If there's nothing on the chart, more often than not, I haven't taken a trade. And if there's no break of structure, then I certainly haven't taken a trade. So price was looking to come up into that 4-hour order block where price was failing to break above. That's fair to say. Still failing to break above now, because we can seek to move that across and await those 15-minute breaks of structure coming out of that. And then, of course, we've got that refined 15-minute order block right there up at those highs, which would look great. No. Did I take a position on GCAD? No, because I would have had it on there. Nevertheless, some structure points in the market. One line will do it, so we've come into that 15-minute order block, What do we have? High. Here's the most recent area in the market, and of course it's a new day, so here it looks good for an Asia range snap, and then price hopefully will come back up into those highs that's caused that snap for a roll back down. So I don't mind GCAD. That's just off the eyeball. Seeing what we have there, move to 4 out of 50 of May, so not too much room at all on the short positions. And then US dollar CAD, I certainly don't have any positions on US dollar CAD, waiting for price to pull back. And as you can see, no pullback whatsoever. So team, that is trading in an essence. If price doesn't work out for you, you cannot force positions. Now, I don't have too much long for this video, so I'll be back. All the best in your trading journey. Good luck in your trading day. Take care. Charles.